Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is day 113, June the 25th, 2017, Sunday. Well, hopefully you guys all had a good weekend. Hopefully all the rain stopped and you had a couple of nice days. We did. Rained all day Friday, most of the night Thursday night, Friday, and cleared up on Saturday. Kind of cloudy but pretty nice, kind of humid. Today's nice though. It's much cooler, mid 70s. Partly cloudy, and I don't see any rain coming, so looks like we might have a pretty good day today. I might get my grass cut and my laundry done. But anyway, a lot to cover. Again, I'm still playing catch-up ball. The last Friday and Thursday and Friday were just total media dumps, so just trying to get caught up on everything. So quite a few items. I'll just click down them. So there was two funny tweets this week by Trump, and one of them was after all the calls came for Nancy Pelosi to step down after the loss in Georgia. Trump tweeted out, no, he wants Pelosi to stay. He fully supports Nancy Pelosi 100%. So that was a pretty funny tweet, and it got a few laughs. He also tweeted out on something else I think was very interesting. Of course, we know about the DNC fraud lawsuit that is going on, and right now it's looking pretty good. The DNC lawyer has been, of course, trying to make the case that the Bernie Sanders supporters knew they were being cheated, therefore they have no case. But apparently the judge is not buying that, and the case has continued because they tried to get the case shut down or thrown out of court because of that, but the judge said, no, we're not going there. So the case continues to play out, and it's actually looking pretty good for the plaintiffs. And if they win this case, they'll likely get a settlement somewhere in the $200 to $300 million range, which the DNC simply could not pay. They're right now bleeding red ink. They have more debt than they have credits to their account. They cannot raise money. They are bleeding red ink at this point, and it just looks all bad for them. But essentially, Trump came out with a tweet stating that he fully supports the case that the Bernie Sanders plaintiffs are making against the DNC. He says that the Becks, the husband and wife attorneys who are prosecuting, or who are the plaintiffs, the lawyers for the plaintiffs in the case, he gave them a thumbs up, and he says that they're absolutely correct to be suing the DNC, that Bernie got screwed by the DNC, and he supports them 100%. So it's pretty interesting that President Trump would weigh in on this particular lawsuit that's going on, but that's what we love about Trump. He tells you what he thinks. You know, whether it's good politics or not, it doesn't really matter. I don't think he cares. Okay. There was also a story this past couple days. Of course, most of you know that the Congress and Judicial Watch had been requesting the unmasking records of Susan Rice during her years as an Obama political appointee at the White House. And of course, after many delays, finally, Judicial Watch and the Congress got letters from the National Security Office stating that all those records of Susan Rice had been moved to the Obama Library, where they will be held for 5 years, thinking that this would keep people from getting their hands on these records. But now it appears that the Congress is not very happy about that, and they have done some research of their own and found that, in fact, if they need those records for a proceeding, a criminal proceeding, not necessarily a congressional hearing, but for a criminal proceeding, which this could lead to, that is one way that they could certainly get those documents. Or the president, who is the head of the executive branch, the current sitting president, President Trump, could get those documents himself through the executive branch, through a direct order from the president. So there are two ways that they can get their hands on those records of Susan Rice's unmasking. The idea that they can just send them over to the Obama Library, where they'll be held for 5 years, where they can't be viewed, is BS. The president can get those records, and if this Susan Rice stuff was to go into the Department of Justice for the Attorney General, and they were to proceed with a criminal hearings, at that point they would be able to get those records. So the idea that that's going to be a way to hide those records, and of course the Congress, the committee members, not very happy about that, particularly Jim Jordan, who's basically said that they will get their hands on those documents if they need them and they would like to have them. So we'll see how that moves forward as the week progresses. I would not be the least bit surprised to see that committee make a formal request to the executive branch to retrieve those records. Also, something that's very interesting, of course, Donald Trump's new FBI director, Christopher Wray, who will be going through his Senate confirmation hearings probably sometime this month, in the month of July, where he will almost certainly 99.9% sure be confirmed, because he's, clean. There's nothing in his background really that's a problem. He will, of course, get some questions on the fact that he's representing Chris Christie in his Bridgegate scandal in New Jersey. But aside from that, there's really not much there to go after Christopher Wray. He will almost certainly be 99.9% sure he will be confirmed. Now, what's interesting about Christopher Wray is that he's known to be one of the best white-collar criminal attorneys in the country. And that's very interesting because generally in the past post 9/11 era, most of the FBI directors have come with a background where they have extensive experience in things like terrorism and things and such. But in the case of Christopher Wray, he's never really been known for being someone involved in a lot of these types of investigations. He is known primarily as a guy who busts white-collar crime. This probably has a lot to do with why President Trump decided to make him the FBI director, because a lot of these investigations that are going on right now are the types of investigations that are essentially white-collar crime. The Clinton Foundation, the obstruction, and all these other things are really fall more under white-collar crime than they do terrorism or anything like that. So anyway, that gives us some insight as to why Donald Trump maybe selected Christopher Wray, because of his background in being one of the best prosecutors in the country of white-collar crime. Tells you what Trump is thinking and probably what Mr. Wray is going to be working towards and working on. Of course, we had the Hillary Clinton quote, which I believe came out on Friday, where she stated that, "Forget death panels. If Republicans pass this bill, they're the death party." That's a stupid quote to make for a public official, even for Hillary Clinton to make. The funny thing here is that when she uses the word death panels, some of you may not be old enough to remember this, but right after Bill Clinton was nominated or elected president in '92, one of the very first things that happened was he put his wife, Hillary, in charge of reforming the healthcare system. And she set up a secret backdoor sort of deal with a lot of people, didn't give out a lot of information. It became very unpopular in the country, and one of the big claims, one of the things that a lot of people were talking about during Hillary's secret healthcare committee that she had set up to give us a new healthcare system, was that eventually it got leaked out that there would be something called death panels, where there would be individuals, probably from the large HMOs, the pharmaceutical companies, the insurance companies, who would sit on a board and decide who would or would not get care when they reached their geriatric years. And so this became known as the death panel, and it was one of the nails in the coffin that destroyed the Hillary Clinton effort back in '92 to reform the healthcare system. It also cost Bill Clinton and the Democrats the loss of the Congress for the first time in 40 years, and led to the hiring of Dick Morris, a Republican consultant, who then told Bill Clinton, "Hey, everybody hates your wife. She's killing you. You've got to put her in the closet. You've got to put her away. Keep her in the shadows. Get her away from you as far as you can. Nobody likes her. Nobody trusts her. Nobody believes her. And they damn sure don't want her secret health care plan with the death panels." So that was a stupid comment by Hillary Clinton, but what do you expect? Next up, we have Anthony Kennedy, Supreme Court Justice, 80 years old, not doing very well. It's been swirling. Rumors have been swirling over the past few days that Mr. Kennedy is not going to make it through the year. He will not be healthy enough, probably, to serve out the rest of Trump's term. Meaning that sometime it is 2017, they expect before this year is up, that Mr. Kennedy may step aside. Now, when he was first appointed, he was appointed by a Republican to be one of the conservatives on the court. But as we found throughout his career, more often than not, on many issues, he sided with the liberals. He became known and is currently known today as the swing vote justice, because we have 3 to the left, 3 to the right, and it's usually Anthony Kennedy is usually the swing, the deciding vote on a lot of things that happen in the Supreme Court. So it looks like Mr. Kennedy may be stepping aside, in which case sometime before Trump's first term ends, possibly even before this year is up, he will be making another Supreme Court nomination. And we can assume it will come from that list that Trump has, which gave us Judge Gorsuch, which, as far as we know at this point, he's a pretty conservative judge. We haven't had enough time to see how he's ruled on a lot of things or where he'll go with things, but we assume he will be pretty solid constitutionalist and will be a good conservative judge. And it's very likely that Trump, before his first term is up, will be appointing another conservative judge, which would give the court a 4-3 swing, and that would be very good, as they have been legislating from the bench now for far too long. Rand Paul, again, appeared on a broadcast, I think it was MSNBC. This past Wednesday. Again, this is how old this one is. I haven't been able to get to it. But he reiterated again in this interview that he doesn't sit on the oversight committee. He doesn't sit on either the intelligence committees or anything like that. So he's generally not involved in these sorts of things, other than just being in general a member of the Senate. But he does have a lot of good friends on the Freedom Caucus, including Jim Jordan. And so he has regular communication with these people, and they are on the committees that are looking into the obstruction and into the surveillance. Rand Paul spent almost the entire interview reiterating his point that he sent a formal letter to the executive branch wanting to know the specific details of whether he had been surveilled and whether his conversations had been unmasked. They will have to respond to this, and he's waiting for that response. But he went on to say that the allegations that Susan Rice unmasked Trump campaign officials is only the tip of the iceberg. So Rand Paul is definitely not letting go. He's going to keep pushing this, and when these surveillance hearings begin to start, I imagine that you will see him communicating with Jim Jordan and some other people who are on those committees to let them know what he would probably like them to talk about. And I think that he would probably like to ask them specifically about him, about whether or not Rand Paul or any other senators were surveilled or unmasked, or any other presidential candidates were surveilled or unmasked during the 2016 campaign. So Rand Paul is all over it. He's definitely not backing down. He wants some answers. And this will come into play, I believe, and again, he is one of those senators. And now it's not Rand Paul only. It's even Lindsey Graham. And believe me, when Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul are on the same side of anything, that's a big deal. And those two, as well as I believe Mike Lee and Ted Cruz and some others in the Senate, have basically said they will not reauthorize the FISA court until they get to the bottom of these things. Now, they're going to have to get votes from some of these guys, excuse me, to get the FISA court reauthorization. They are going to have to get some of these guys. They cannot have this many of these Republican senators not willing to approve the FISA Act. They'll never get it passed. They're going to have to get the votes. And right now, they don't have the votes. So this is going to set up a forced situation sometime before September when the FISA court reauthorization comes up. So we know that this is going to have to be looked at, and we know that Rand Paul will be working with the Freedom Caucus to get the answers he wants, and certainly the answers Donald Trump wants. Another kind of totally non-related issue, but just something again on Jeff Sessions. As you know, I'm no fan of Jeff Sessions as an attorney general. I think he's a fairly nice guy. I'm happy that he supports Trump and all that sort of thing. But the fact of the matter is, I believe that Jeff Sessions is weak. I believe he screwed up by recusing himself, and I just don't know why he's not pursuing the Clinton Foundation or any of these other things in the way that he should be, appointing special prosecutors. If you want to get the Democrats off your back, if you want to get Mr. Mueller off your back, the best way to do it is to counter Mr. Mueller with a special prosecutor of your own, looking into the Clinton Foundation. When you start putting the pressure on the other guys, one of two things happen. Most likely what happens is they come to you and say, hey, look, how about this? How about you back off of our girl and we'll back off of your guy and we'll all be good. That's generally the type of thing that happens. Or else it becomes a scorched earth policy where it makes the other side go after your guy even harder, in which case you go even harder. You appoint another special prosecutor and go after someone else. And you can play this game in Washington, D.C. It is the swamp. It is how they play ball there. And Jeff Sessions is not exactly in the ball game. Jeff Sessions needs to be pulled, and he needs to be replaced with someone else. He's 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts and a couple of forced errors. At this point, what we need to hear is, stepping in, batting for Jeff Sessions is Rudy Giuliani. Giuliani. That's what we need to hear. Do I love Rudy Giuliani? Not really. He's pretty corrupt. But you know what? He's a bare-knuckle fighter, and I promise you, if he was Attorney General, he never would have recused himself. And right now, he would be going after people. He would be totally two-fisted, and he would be giving them hell. And it appears that Jeff Sessions, while he may be a nice man, doesn't seem to have the backbone to act. But what is Jeff Sessions working hard at right now? Fighting the individual states who've passed medicinal marijuana laws. That seems to be where he really wants to put a lot of effort. This tells you that Jeff Sessions is completely out of touch with reality, with the mood of the country, and he shouldn't be infringing on the states who want to take a look at this option of medicinal marijuana or recreational or anything else. I'm a libertarian. I don't care what you smoke. Preferably you won't smoke when you're driving. Preferably you won't smoke when you're flying my plane or driving the bus I'm riding on or something like that. Hopefully you'll do it in the privacy of your own home, and you will be responsible about your recreational marijuana use if that's what you choose to do. But Jeff Sessions, with all the things that he should be busying himself with, this is certainly not one of them. Please send in the replacement for Jeff Sessions. Put his ass on the bench. He's 0 for 4 with 3 forced errors. Okay, we learned a little bit a couple days ago about the formal letters that were sent out to 7 people. We know about, of course, Loretta Lynch receiving that letter, but we also know now a couple more people that received them letters. Of course, Miss Renteria received one of those letters. Of course, this woman, Gail Scoville, who is with a Democratic think tank, which was paid several $1 million for their efforts in the campaign for Hillary Clinton to get her elected, which failed. Also, this guy, Bernardo, which we'll be talking a little bit more about, he also received one of those letters. So now we know who 4 of the 7 people were who received them letters. Be very interested to know if Bill Clinton got one. But that it looks like we're finding out more about these letters. Now, some people are saying, well, Loretta Lynch, does she have to respond to the letter? Well, you know, she could choose not to respond, and these other people can choose not to respond to these types of letters. These are done all the time. Typically, the reason these letters are sent out is because the Congress is interested in having some hearings and they want to invite some people to come and testify. And what they want to do is form a basis for the hearings so that when the person comes in, they can proceed with some line of questions, but they want to establish some facts about where the witness stands on some issues so they know how to arrange the questions and what questions to ask and things and such. So what happens with these letters most of the time is that the individual who receives the letter will lawyer up. They will sit there with their lawyer, and what they will do is they will give long, wordy, narrative answers to these questions where they don't actually answer the question. They jump onto a talking point or a narrative. They get very, very wordy, and but they never actually answer the question. It's political spin. It's just that they do it in letter form instead of orally. So this is what you can expect, I think, from all the recipients of these letters, is that they will lawyer up and that they will not actually directly answer any of the questions. And then when they actually are called in to the hearings to testify, this is where a lot of times you'll see them plead the fifth, which can go either way. Because if you plead the fifth and you choose not to answer any of the questions, at which point the the committees are not really getting any information to help them, it generally looks bad on you when you plead the fifth. It makes you look guilty. And what happens a lot of the time is after you plead the fifth, if these people come in and all plead the fifth and don't talk, the committee doing the hearings, what they'll do is review what they do have, and they'll determine whether or not it should be sent forwarded to the Department of Justice, where they can say, okay, we have enough evidence here to suggest that there may have been crimes, but the witnesses have chosen not to cooperate. So at this point, we can go no farther. So we're going to now refer this to the Department of Justice to let them to decide whether or not their prosecutors believe they have enough evidence to move forward in a criminal investigation, where they will appoint a grand jury and a judge. So there is a downside to not appearing in the hearings. If you can go to the hearings and you can spin your way through it and get your way out of it and somewhat clear yourself a little bit, then you'll be better off, because generally it won't go to the next step. Of course, if you're guilty as hell and there's really no way to defend yourself, then you're probably going to have to do what your lawyer would advise you to do, which is to plead the fifth, even if it goes to the Justice Department and then end up filing criminal charges. Again, once you get into criminal court, you can also plead the fifth. But of course, they'll be able to call other witnesses and present other evidence. And a lot of times, if the evidence is very, very convincing and overwhelming to the jury, they're going to get a guilty verdict, in which case a lot of times the person on the accused at that point sometimes has to actually testify just to make their best effort to clear themselves. So it gets very, very sticky. It's a difficult situation you certainly do not want to be in, especially if they have some pretty good evidence. And in this particular case, based on the questions, some of the questions we've already seen, we already know the answers to these questions about whether or not Loretta Lynch was communicating with people from the DNC, the Hillary Clinton campaign, members of the media. So she's in a tough position, and I imagine she's squirming quite a bit and probably breaking out in a cold sweat. See, Loretta Lynch and her minions never thought they would lose the election. They never thought that this day would come, but as Hillary Clinton said, that if they lose, all their necks would be in nooses. And I think we know what Hillary was talking about, because that appears to be what's happening now. Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She is literally probably the most likely to be the scapegoat. She is the one that everyone appears to be turning on. She is turning back on them in a very vicious way. Of course, we know that just in the past couple days, she accused both Jay Johnson and James Comey of the FBI of committing perjury by lying, by saying that they made an effort to contact her and the DNC about the FBI wanted to take a look at the servers and investigate them and try to find the evidence of Russian hacking. And Jay Johnson at the Department of Homeland Security, of course, contacted the DNC and Debbie Wasserman Schultz to let them know that they have some really good IT people who could come over and patch the vulnerabilities in their network, to which she declined. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz came out and said both Comey and Jay Johnson were lying. They were perjuring themselves, that they never contacted her at all, and that the only thing that happened was that the Department of Homeland Security had contacted their standard IT tech. That just sounds ridiculous. But that's Debbie Wasserman Schultz's story. She's completely at odds with the former FBI Director and Department of Homeland Security. She's also completely at odds with her own lieutenant, Donna Brazil, who stated openly in a CNN interview that in fact she had been working closely with the FBI and the DHS, as well as the general counsel at the DNC, who said, yeah, we're completely cooperating and blah, 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 blah. So this definitely puts Debbie Wasserman Schultz at odds with Comey and Johnson, puts her at odds with her own lieutenant, Donna Brazil, and the DNC general counsel, who we'll likely be hearing from. So Debbie Wasserman Schultz has got a problem. But not only that, another item that's been sitting out there for about a week and a half that I haven't been able to get to, as you remember, Hillary Clinton was giving a sit-down sort of interview speech thing out in California about a week and a half or so ago, where she went off and blamed the DNC and for not supporting her campaign. She talked about the campaign having no money, that she had thrown money at the DNC, that they didn't have very much organization, that they didn't seem to have their act together at all, and that they were one of the reasons why she lost. Well, Debbie Wasserman Schultz didn't take too highly to that, so she appeared here a few days back on a TV show where that was brought to her attention. She said she was well aware of what Hillary Clinton said about the DNC and the support that she got from them. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz is now really at odds with Hillary Clinton, despite the fact that Debbie Wasserman Schultz, working with the DNC and the left-wing media, did everything they possibly could to sabotage the campaign of Bernie Sanders to help Hillary Clinton. They did everything they could to run nothing but negative stories on Bernie Sanders in the media. So the DNC was working very closely with them on that. The DNC and the media were sending stories to Hillary Clinton's people before they would even publish them to make sure that they were okay with Hillary's people. So all this collusion that was going on between the DNC, the liberal media, and the Clinton campaign and Hillary Clinton clearly didn't appreciate it. And that is, of course, really hacked off Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So her comment to Hillary Clinton is the following, quote, "The extra boost we gave her was wasted by a lackluster campaign that neglected to make a case for voters to choose her over Trump. Now she's trying to make that hack and me the scapegoat for her whole bogus Trump cheated theme. Well, I'm not taking that crap." That's Debbie Wasserman Schultz responding to Hillary Clinton. The extra boost we gave her was wasted by a lackluster campaign that neglected to make a case for voters to choose her over Trump. Now she's trying to make that hack and me the scapegoat for her whole bogus Trump cheated theme. Well, I'm not taking that crap. She's basically saying that Hillary and the left wing's entire campaign that Trump cheated somehow, working with the Russians, is bogus. So now Debbie Wasserman Schultz is clearly off the Russia hacked the election, Russia-Trump collusion. She's clearly off the train. She's on her own train, which is headed straight down the tracks for a head-on collision with those who she's at odds with of her own party. It's a Democratic Party meltdown. You have the leaders, the heads of the party, the Clintons, the Obamas, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Donna Brazil, Neera Tanden, all these people now coming into extreme conflict with each other because they're all trying to cover their own butts because they realize exactly what is happening to them. And now it is every man for themselves in Washington, D.C. And Debbie Wasserman Schultz, she's got a lot of problems. Hillary Clinton, the investigations just continue mounting. They're all coming back. We can very likely assume that when Christopher Wray takes over as FBI director here in the next few weeks, that he is going to get all over the Clinton email campaign. That will be reopened because we are now learning that Loretta Lynch stifled the investigation. We'll see if she actually has to pay a price for that. Certainly she will pay a public political price as well as the Democratic Party. Whether or not she faces criminal prosecution remains to be seen. not for a lack of evidence, but for a lack of backbone by Republicans. We're going to find out if Mr. Gowdy and his friends have any balls. That's what we're about to find out. I would not bet on them, but we'll see how that all turns out. As far as last night, movie night, well, we were so tired. We watched the first movie and we were so tired from all the running around we did yesterday that we actually didn't make it to a second movie. We only watched one movie last night. So Maura, what movie we watched last night? Runaway Train. It's one of my, and I think my girlfriend likes it too, because she likes Eric Roberts and John Voight, both who do an outstanding job in that movie. In fact, I actually think that I like Eric Roberts. I watch a lot of his movies. I think that may be the best acting I've ever seen Eric Roberts do. He's a pretty good actor. You know, he's been in a lot of kind of like B films. He doesn't get a lot of great movies to be in, but when he gets his opportunity at being in a big film, he shows up. I mean, he's a lefty. I don't like his politics, but Eric Roberts does a fantastic job in the movie Runaway Train. And I don't know how they filmed the one scene where he's on the train and it's freezing ass cold and he's hanging onto the train. He's trying to release the train from the engine, and that scene looks real. I assume he does a lot of. I understand he does a lot of his own stunts. But if he actually did that stunt, I got to hand it to you. I don't know how much he got paid to make that movie, but that was a dangerous, dangerous stunt to be pulling, because that train's moving about 55, 60 miles an hour. He is holding on by one foot and one leg. It's cold, it's icy, it's freezing. I mean, just an extraordinary acting job by Eric Roberts in the movie Runaway Train. It's actually a very, very good movie. One of my favorites. We try to watch it once a year or so. So anyway, we watched Runaway Train last night. We threw some stuff on the grill, and it got to be pretty late in the evening. It was like 9:30 before we started eating even. And then we watched that movie, and after eating, sitting on the couch watching the movie, we were both just almost ready to fall asleep. So we ended up going to bed early. Like, we were in bed at probably midnight, which is early for us because we normally stay up and watch two movies, and we don't get to bed till like 2 o'clock. So anyway, that's what we did last night. And any of you want to make any comments about movies we should be watching? You know, we always happy to get your suggestions on any movies. So Runaway Train last night. Anyway, that's basically what I've got broken down for today. We have more coming for the Monday video to follow up on some other things. And so that would be day 113 of TowerGate. The drip, 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 folks. It just continues. So Trump may be appointing a new Supreme Court justice as Anthony Kennedy is failing. Hillary Clinton's an idiot. Trump's tweets are right on target. Congress will be able to get a hold of Susan Rice's records from the Obama library if they need to. The new FBI director is a white-collar crime professional, one of the best in the country. Gives us some insight as to why Trump may have selected him. Rand Paul wants to know who unmasked him. He wants to get to the bottom of it. And of course, Jeff Sessions is badly needing to be replaced in the lineup. He's 0 for 4 with 3 forced errors. Okay, that's what we have for today. Appreciate y'all tuning in. I'll see you back here on Monday for another TowerGate video. Thank you guys. Take care. Bye.